Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, hey Judy, how you doing? For me, it is just past midnight on Saturday, October 11th, 2025. That makes this the news and events for Friday, October 10th, day 1325 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you from this major European capital, currently under siege. Hey, Big Hawk. Hey, Dirty. Hey, Feisty. How you doing? Hey, Steve. I think I had a productive day, Steve. I think I did. Hey, Carl. The algorithm's not liking me very much. I noticed that. Aloha, Carbon. Altered Carbon. I am safe, thank you. Hey, Rocco. Hey, Richard Prexis. Hey, Marius. So some of you might have seen, I did some videos today. One of the drones last night, one of the 60 Shaheeds that came down in our neighborhood, less than 1,000 yards from my house. An apartment complex was hit. It looks like there's about 40 families made homeless. There's dozens of injuries. Over 100 apartments damaged, but probably 40 of them uninhabitable. And we were over there today. I did a short live from there, which I have not yet published to YouTube, but I will make a point of publishing it to YouTube. And we could see the workmen already in there, ripping out the detritus of these people's lives and just tossing it out of the 6th and 7th floor windows as they tried to clean the space and get plywood up on the shattered windows. You know, it was loud last night. It was a big attack. 465 drones, 32 missiles. The interception rates were good for the drones. 87% interception rate on the drones. Only 60 of the drones got through. But they did the kind of damage that we saw here in Pechursk. It's important to recognize, too, that the principal targets last night, and we'll talk some more about this, but the principal targets last night were civilian energy and water infrastructure. So for the first time in almost 3 years in country here, I experienced a water outage. There was no water this morning when I woke up. There was no electricity this morning when I woke up. Friends of mine in the neighborhood went to work with no electricity and no water. Zelensky today said that Moscow is targeting everything that sustains normal life, everything the Russians want to deprive us of. And that's exactly right. I think somebody in the comments there made a reference to Leviticus 10, which off the top of my head I cannot come up with. I confess. A couple things about last night's attack. Now, this is interesting to me. We saw a new category of reporting from the Air Force this morning, and it reminded me of what we saw last November, right? Oh, there's Arna. Hey, Arna. Arna is the sponsor of tonight's live. I think he also had a good day, and that's good news for everybody. So thank you, Arn. Hey, Joe, what do you know? So please thank Arn for sponsoring tonight's live. You guys know the live sponsors and the Patreon folks make it possible for me to be here. And I do want to thank everybody. I asked a week ago tonight, last Friday, I said, what I really need is I need 100 people to join the Patreon at $5 a month. If I could just get 5 people or 100 people to join at $5 a month, it would change my life. And you guys have responded. We are down to 86. I just need 86 people to join the Patreon at $5 a month, and that would change my life. So if anybody else can join the Patreon or sponsor a live, next Tuesday is Nutmegger's birthday, so he's our sponsor on Tuesday. But next week is totally open for sponsorship if anybody wants to sponsor a live. Now, what's interesting, what changed last November, right? Because everybody here knows, if you follow me on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, or Threads, every morning I publish the overnight statistics, right? We published the overnight statistics. And it was last November that a new category started showing up in the reporting from the Air Force. And that was drones downed by electronic warfare. Now, it wasn't exactly expressed that way. It took us a while to figure out what they were actually talking about. But that's what it turned out to be. Today, we saw a new reporting for missiles. Of the 32 missiles last night, 15 were shot down, right? That's a 43% interception rate. However, the Air Force also reported that 4 did not reach their targets and crashed before reaching their targets. Now, this opens up an area of speculation. I've never seen that before. And I report those numbers every day. What has changed? Or has anything changed? Yeehaw. It's possible. What are the possibilities? Projectile dysfunction, Nightshade. You might be right? We know that the Russians are having trouble. The sanctions evasions required to get the parts for the missiles that they would want but can't get have led them to turn to Chinese knockoffs. So could it be that the second-hand clones, Chinese clones of these parts, simply aren't of the quality that they're getting, and that's leading to missile malfunctions? Or could it be that the Ukrainians are employing some kind of electronic warfare against these missiles, causing them to crash? Or could it be a combination of the two? So it's unclear why these 4 missiles crashed before they reached their targets, but apparently 4 of them did. Now, if you count those 4 missiles, then the interception rate goes up to a nice 60%, which is much better than 43%. It's Friday, and on Fridays we do territory of control stats, right? We see how much more of Ukraine the Russian advance has taken. Well, I am pleased to report that as of today, day 1,325 of the 3-day special military operation, Russia is in control of 19.06%. That is a loss of 0.14% since September. They have lost ground in Ukraine. That's good news. That's good news. And it flies in the face of the Russian narrative that the Russians are exclusively pushing forward. They are not. They are losing territory and positions in Ukraine. Now, last night's big missile strike on Ukrainian infrastructure ahead of winter comes exactly 3 years to the day since the first Russian attacks on civilian infrastructure ahead of winter. 3 years ago today, the first winter strike campaign began with targeted attacks on civilian infrastructure with the 2022 missile strikes on energy and thermal power plants here in Kyiv. 7 days later, October 17th, 2022, we saw the first use of Shaheds for this purpose in this war. So we are coming up on the 3-year anniversary of the Russians using the Iranian Shahed drones to target Ukrainian infrastructure in the hopes of freezing Ukrainian grandmothers in their beds to death. We're 3 years into this thing. Zelensky claims that Putin is doing this to sow chaos and apply psychological pressure on the population. And I think he's right. I think that that's exactly what's going on. These are, of course, war crimes. And one of the things that came up on the live today was, why doesn't Ukraine strike civilian infrastructure in Russia? Put the Russians into the dark, freeze the Russians. And the short answer to that question is because it's a war crime. It's a war crime. But what do you do when all that your opponent can do is war crimes? When Ukraine has been playing by the book for 3.5 years of full-scale invasion, 11 years of war. How much longer? If in that 3.5 years, how many times have the Ukrainians asked Europe and NATO to help them close the skies, to put a no-fly zone in over Ukraine and stop this attempt by the Russian Federation to bomb the Ukrainians back into the Stone Age, like they have in the temporarily occupied territories, where in Donetsk City, a modern Ukrainian city, the bombings and the mismanagement of the government mean that the residents don't have running water or power much of the time. They're living in the Stone Age, and they want to bring it to the rest of the country. What do you do when you keep asking your partners to help you close the skies to stop these war crimes, and they don't do it? And then Russian drones invade their airspace. What does Ukraine do? Send specialists to Poland and to Denmark to train their people on how to deal with the drone threat from Russia. That's what Ukraine has done. If the partners aren't going to give Ukraine the help to close the skies, after 4 years of this, what choice does Ukraine have but to bomb the fuck out of Russian infrastructure? Plunge Belgorod into darkness, plunge Moscow into darkness, plunge Volgograd into darkness, hit the thermal power plants, even as winter is coming on. Maybe that will get the Russians to rethink their war crime only strategy. Now, on the subject of these war crimes, the Russians are at it again. Out in Donetsk, they hit an ammonia pipeline to use it as a kind of chemical weapon, poisoning the air and water and ground with ammonia in an effort to slow the Ukrainian advance. That's a sign of desperation, boy. That's a sign of desperation. And yet another war crime. In an astonishing turn of events, TASS, the Russian state propaganda newspaper, continues to publish its little square column on overnight Ukrainian drone strikes on Russia, which is astonishing. For months, we have heard that falling debris and industrial accidents were responsible for the many fires across Russia. It's only now that the official mouthpiece of the Kremlin, or paper of the Kremlin, TASS, is reporting flight delays caused by Ukraine drone attacks. Flight delays as far east as Samara, hundreds of miles from Ukraine. The fact that the newspapers are publishing this kind of information on a daily basis means that the damage Ukrainian strikes are causing to Russia are simply too much to ignore. Just too much to ignore. Now, pardon me. Sorry, the weather's miserable here. I really feel bad for the people in the trenches. You know, the glorious golden autumn that we were having has transitioned into a seasonal, cold, wet, damp, miserable kind of fall. And you can probably hear I'm all congested, my throat is sore, blah, 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 blah. Thanks, Jasmine. I did not get any sleep today. I did not get any sleep last night. I didn't get any sleep today. I was up at a pretty reasonable hour. And then I headed down the block here where a drone hit the neighbor's apartment building last night. Now, more shit from the Austrians. The fucking Austrians, I swear to God, of all the countries in Europe, and let's remember, the great lie that maintains Austrian tourism is that Mozart was Viennese and Hitler was German. He wasn't. He was Austrian. And how many missiles and drones landed last night? 13 missiles and 60 drones. 13 missiles and 60 drones confirmed to have reached their targets. Now, Austria, who has done shit all in this war for Ukraine, is now trying to get ahead of Ukraine in line to seize frozen Russian assets to make up for losses of industry in Austria caused by sanctions on Ukraine, on Russia. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. The frozen Russian assets cannot be used to legitimize court filings inside Russia and give them legitimacy and power in Europe. This is a bad move. Japanese whiskey isn't bad. The Japanese love a whiskey. Holy cow, Arna. The Japanese love a whiskey. I used to do some work for the Bank of Tokyo in Manhattan, and we would party with the guys from Tokyo and Osaka when they were in town. Holy shit, do the Japanese love their whiskey. Anyway, it is my opinion that the frozen Russian assets should be used to support Ukraine. And the idea that private industry, who because they were doing business with Russia in the first fucking place, should be compensated for their losses out of the frozen Russian assets is a bad way to think, boy. It's the money grabbers at work, and they are grabbing. And not only are they grabbing, they are holding Ukraine hostage because Austria is saying that it will not vote for the next round of sanctions on Russia unless it gets this money for its businesses. Specifically, Raiffeisen Bank, which is owned by a Russian oligarch with close ties to Putin. So this is Putin money, Putin influence, trying to steal back the frozen Russian assets rather than let them be used here in Ukraine where they are needed. Alice, the Austrians, man, they didn't go through the kind of self-reflection that Germany did after World War II. They have remained aloof. Now, in good news, Rheinmetall confirmed that it will provide Ukraine with additional Skyranger 35 air defense systems, which are being paid for out of the interest on frozen Russian assets from an unspecified EU country. Now look, 224 billion of the frozen Russian assets are in a clearinghouse in Belgium. The Belgians don't want to give up the money because they have the money, right? But at least it looks like they're on board. Now, again, the country is unspecified. We don't know that it's the Belgians. But they have a good reason not to give up the money, hang on to it for themselves. And they have a good reason not to piss off the Russians. So the most likely candidate for who's funding this thing with frozen Russian assets interest would be the Belgians. But we don't know. Anyway, Rheinmetall confirmed the contract but did not disclose the buyer. Did confirm that it was being funded through frozen Russian assets interest. These Skyranger 35 air defense systems can be mounted on a Leopard 1 tank. They've got a 4-kilometer range, and they're a kind of modern variant of the Gepard gun, mounted right to the turret of your favorite German tank. Now, one of the things that we do not talk about in here is the situation in Gaza. Everybody here knows that I believe Vladimir Putin funded, trained, and initiated the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, Vladimir Putin's 71st birthday. I don't think that's any coincidence. That he did all that. And he did it principally to distract from Ukraine. And it's worked. The world's attention has been on Gaza. Trump claims to have brokered a peace deal. What could it mean for Ukraine if, in fact, a ceasefire takes hold in Gaza? If we get on the right track with Gaza, if we start getting food in there, we start rebuilding, we get medical aid to those people, and we start moving it along, will the press then turn to Ukraine? I hear from a lot of people in the West that Ukraine is hardly in the news, but Gaza's always in the news. Could Ukraine return to prominence in the news? It is my fondest hope that peace comes to Gaza, not because it will mean more attention for Ukraine, but because it will mean that peace comes to Gaza. A tertiary effect of that might be that we see more of Ukraine in the news. And I don't want to compare sufferings here, right? The situation in Gaza is dreadful. But the situation in Gaza will not result in a broader war inside of Europe. The situation in Gaza will not result in the European economy having to convert its resources to a war economy and fight on the ground in Europe. European sovereignty is not challenged by the Gaza war. It's a different war. And of course, every thinking person wants every war to stop, you know? But it would be nice if the world could focus a little bit on what's happening in Ukraine, because the immediate consequences of a Russian victory here will be felt by everyone. And that's not the case with the Gaza conflict. So I truly hope that the people of Gaza and the people of Israel have made some movements in the right direction. And I doubt very much that Trump had anything to do with much of it at all. just like he had nothing to do with settling the Albanian-Azeri conflict, for those of you that followed that war. Trump is not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. I was going to end with this because it's kind of funny, but let's take a break. Let's have a laugh right in the middle, shall we? So the Nobel Committee announced its awardee today. It is, of course, not Donald Trump, the peace president. How do these people believe these things? Like, how does anybody think that Donald Trump is a president for peace? Are you fucking kidding me? Anyway, he settled 7 wars. Bullshit, motherfuckers. Anyway, so he didn't get the Peace Prize, right? The Norwegians or the Danes, I guess, are upset or are concerned that he might be upset with them and invade Greenland. And it's not even an unreasonable thing to think. But I want to point out that there was a great meme going around the internet today. It was an announcement of the Nobel Prize in Ecology to Kirill Budanov, Lieutenant General Kirill Budanov, commander of Russia's military intelligence directorate, or of Ukraine's military intelligence directorate, right? He got the Nobel Prize in Ecology for the most significant reduction in fossil fuel production in Russia, which I thought was a riot, right? That was just a meme, right? It was a joke. He didn't win it, right? But it's funny context. Oh, Chris, those guys are not even good actors, man. They're not even good actors. Anyway, now, I mentioned the other day, it was October 8th, so Wednesday, right? Sergei Ryabkov's, the Russian deputy foreign minister, said that U.S.-Russian relations were crashing. And that immediately triggered a sell-off in the Russian market, in the Moscow exchange, the MOEX. And on Wednesday, we saw it plunge in its sharpest single-day drop in 3 years of 4.5%. That's a 3-year low. And it eroded hopes of a rally based on the hope of peace in the war, right? So Russian investors have been hoping that the war was going to come to an end. And that had given them some confidence. Well, when the deputy foreign minister said that we're no longer talking to the United States, not only the market lost its confidence, and we saw a 4.5% drop in one day. Gazprom is down 4.1%. Sparebank is down 4.9%. VTD down 4.7%. And Rosneft down 2.5%. These are giants, titans of the Russian economy with close ties to the state or are state-owned properties themselves. PSB Bank noted that after a period of rising expectations for peace, a wave of pessimism has washed over Russian investors. I might call it a wave of reality, but they're calling it pessimism. The Moscow Times is reporting that 67 of Russia's 89 regions are running significant budget deficits. The war economy is cannibalizing the civil economy, the civilian economy. The government is now facing an inflection point between building a tank and investing in the civilian economy. It's the guns and butters conundrum. You only have limited resources. What are you going to do with them? And the reality of this autocratic nightmare, this gangster gangland of a gas station with nukes cosplaying as a country, is that the gangsters in charge are going to double down. They're not going to invest in the civilian economy. They're going to build the tank. And that's going to have consequences. The crash this week places war funding, right? Moscow wants to do more war. The problem is that it places the funding for that war under further stress, shrinking capital available to fund the war, increasing the borrowing costs. Even as we see oil and gas revenues flagging, all amid the backdrop of an eggshell economy cracking under 17% interest rates and 8.1% inflation. Now, yesterday, there was a report Reuters was reporting on the economy in Russia that corroborates the damage that is being wreaked on the Russian economy as the war economy cools. Domestic demand continues to fall as people are losing income and jobs, and exports dry up as continuing pressure for secondary sanctions is exerted globally by the West. Reuters is reporting that non-military sectors contracted 5%. Now, we had a growth forecast for Russia for 2025 of probably 2.6%. That GDP growth rate is now reduced to 1% for 2025. And by the time the year ends, with a contracting civilian economy contracting at this rate, we may see that 1% erode to nothing. Now, Reuters went on to point out that officially unemployment remains low, but companies are going to 4-day work weeks rather than lay people off. So we're not seeing it in the unemployment figures. But that means that people's salaries are declining by 20% in a world where inflation is 8.1%. That's going to be a problem. Now, last week we talked about one of the companies that Reuters profiled, Avtovaz, the automaker. Avtovaz saw record numbers of resignations when they tried to cut salaries from about $1,600 a month to $600 a month. People just walked out the door, thinking, I'm sure, that they could get jobs in defense plants. Some of them may be able to. Avtovaz also cut everybody to a 4-day work week. Reuters highlighted the Kamaz truck business. They've cut to a 4-day work week, and as they see demand contracting. Boy, I can't read my writing. Oh, Kamaz is being hit particularly hard because they make trucks, big, heavy trucks, for the construction industry and the mining industry. And both mining and construction are under pressure. New housing construction in particular, is way down in Russia this year, even as a record number of mortgages are going 90 days past due. Curiously enough, the military truck division is doing okay. Russian Rail is asking employees to take 3 unpaid days of leave a month. So they're not cutting to a 4-day work week. They're asking employees to cut themselves to 4-day work weeks, three weeks a month. Michelle, Michelle, they're a poster child for the coal industry. They're one of Russia's largest coal producers. And they are shutting down mines amid record losses. Currently, as many as half of Russia's roughly 200 coal mines are facing bankruptcy this year. Rosa Diamonds. You may not know that the largest diamond mine in the world is not in South Africa. It's in Russia. And Rosa Diamonds has several diamond mines across Russia. They are closing the less profitable ones. And they have laid off 10% of the non-mining staff. Meanwhile, Chemros, the largest cement and construction materials producer in Russia with 13,000 employees, has gone to a 4-day work week until the end of the year amid the crashing housing market and the lack of demand. The lack of demand for construction materials for new construction is mirrored in the business of furniture production. So the timber and plywood company Sveva is, amid falling domestic demand for furniture and new construction, has shut down its Tyumen mill, laying off 300, or about 10% of its workforce. This comes on the heels of Alexander Shulkin. Now, Shulkin is an oligarch, a very wealthy, very powerful Russian with no official position in the government. Shulkin recently said that the Russian economy is beginning to experience uncontrollable contraction. The economy is racing downhill, and it's picking up speed, and there is nothing to stop it. Russia's answer to all of this, curiously enough, very much like President Trump's, is to raise taxes on Russians. The value-added tax is going from 20% to 22%. So when Russians buy goods affected by the VAT, they will now be paying 22% in taxes on those goods, which will further drive up inflation, which may lead the Central Russian Bank to face a very difficult decision: to raise interest rates again, or keep them where they're at despite the pressure from Putin to drop them and face the consequences of leaving them where they are. Hey, Cynthia, how you doing? I agree, Dawn Patrols. The point of no return is long past. There is very little you can do to save the Russian economy now. Very little. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the highlights, the news for the day. Russia's losing territory and Ukraine is dismantling its economy, even as the Russians try to dismantle energy infrastructure and bomb us here in Ukraine back into the Stone Age. I want to thank Arna, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. I want to thank everybody that joined the Patreon, the 13 people that joined the Patreon in the last week. I need 86 more people. If you've been following this channel and you want to help keep me on the air, please join the Patreon if you can afford to kick me $5 a month. Much appreciated. Be one of those 86 people that helped to change my life. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the moderator team, best moderators on the Tickety Talk, Feisty, Maddie, Jay, Pete, and Travis. Thank you all so much. Hey, Pugga Mahone. So guys, questions, comments, points of observation, anything from anybody about anything? Let's go, Patreon people. Woo! Yeah, I'm really blown away. You know, I said last Friday, if I could get 100 people to join the Patreon at $5 a month, it would change my life, which it will. And we've had, 14 people now. 14 people step up to that challenge. I just need, Flip, join the Patreon, would you? Kick me $5 a month. I need 86 people to join the Patreon at $5 a month to change my life. Be one of them, pal. Hey, Weebo. How you doing, buddy? So very grateful for the 14 people that have stepped up so far. Could use 86 more people to step up as well. Was out about doing some local on-the-scene reporting today. The videos are on TikTok here. And we had a Shahed come down in the neighborhood. And I was over there looking at that and talking about that a little bit. Dan Borman says, I win $10 a month. I'm counting you, Dan, as one of those 14 people. And it's a great point to make. It's not so much the people, right? Like if you sign up at $20 a month, that would count as 4 people. And existing Patreon folks, if you're a shark, you can go FDL, thank you. If you can go to the Magora, like Dan did, and that would make the same difference to me. That would make exactly the same difference. So I'm very grateful, Dan. Thank you. And I just got a announcement that FDL joined the Patreon. So thank you, FDL. Freedom doesn't last. Down to 85. You're the best. Thanks, Leo. I appreciate it. Guys, I did not get the live from today downloaded and posted to YouTube, but I will do that tonight before I go to bed. So what else is going on? We got about 15 minutes. How do you go to Patreon? The link is in my bio. So if you just click on my, like me, my avatar, whatever, on any video, Cynthia, you should go right to the Patreon. You should go right to the bio, and then you'll see the Patreon link is there, and all you have to do is click that link. The best thing to do is download the app. I know I hate to ask you to download an app, but it is useful. Download the app and then search for me on Patreon. Subscribe to my channel. It is free. I got 150 free subscribers. Maybe you're new here. You're not sure yet about me. Join the Patreon for free. And if you've been a Patreon subscriber, or if you've been a free Patreon subscriber, maybe you could become one of the 86 paid Patreon subscribers at $5 a month. You know? Hart makes a good point. You have to search Pytor Alexievich on Patreon. I'm sorry it's such a terrible name. Pytor. Night, Chef Deb. Thanks, Lars. Altered carbon, that's correct. What is the biggest industry in Ukraine at the moment? That's an interesting question, Ren Vox. Thanks, Alice. Oh, Nightshade, I didn't see that. Interesting. The biggest industry in Ukraine, I don't know. The short answer is I don't know. The war has affected a lot of Ukrainian industry negatively. Like, for example, Ukraine used to produce a great deal of tile, just simple tiling, like for a sink backboard or a stove backboard or your bathroom floor, whatever. And the tile business has been hit hard because the principal clay deposits are like the front line runs right through them. While the war has benefited the defense contracting industry, Ukraine, as I understand it, is now a net exporter of drones and weaponry, drone-based weapons. So that's a change. That's a change. I don't know what the biggest industry is. It's an interesting question. Nightshade is saying here that Russia has placed a travel ban on all conscription-aged men. Interesting. I did not see that, Nightshade. I'll have to take a look at that. Heroim Slava, Akron. Mike Kelly says, I've been watching you for a year, Peter. Still don't know if you're worthy. I have a lot of respect for that level of skepticism. Do we know what happens to all goods on lorries being blocked from entering Russia, Kazakhstan? Dave, they are being confiscated. They are being confiscated. Now look, in Kazakhstan, what does that mean? That they're going to get resold on the black market? I don't know. Like, I don't know. But right now it looks like the Kazakhs are enforcing secondary sanctions. And so they are stopping the delivery of dual-use electronic goods into Russia, as well as any other prohibited kind of electronics, etc. Roy Daniels, I don't understand your question about ban reported as well. I don't know what that's about. What is the, I think you mean morale, Alice, like what's the morale among civilians? If you watch on my Patreon last week's comedy show, at the end of it, I give a kind of little speech about how Ukraine is winning, and that got thunderous applause. And I think that that's kind of the best living example I can give you of the morale in Ukraine. Commonly. Now, of course, people have their doubts. People get nervous. But overall, the confidence that the Ukrainian people will win is overwhelming. Or at least, if they don't think they're going to win, they are convinced they will not lose, because they will not live under the yoke of Russian oppression ever again. It's not going to happen. I had guys at the front line tell me, it's almost a year now since I was out on the front, but they told me they would fight with sticks and stones and bows and arrows before they would quit. What's happening to the inside revolution groups in Russia? Well, what we hope is happening is that they are garnering weapons and training and biding their time until the power of the Russian central government is shattered, which I believe is coming. So you can look up the League of Free Nations. That's an independence, ethnic, and national movement inside Russia, representing 15 separate, diverse ethnicities. Then we've got at least 6 armed rebellion movements, secessionist movements inside of Russia. I mean, Simon, there's no way that the Russian Federation survives the loss of this war. And they are going to lose. Roy Daniels is confirming the ban on people of military conscription age not being able to leave Russia. And somebody else here, Dave Flo, confirms that they are tracking young men and stopping them at the border via digital tracking. Oh, pardon me. And it looks like Dave is making the claim that they can stop driving licenses as well. Suspension of driving license. Hey, Dan Ballard, how you doing? Apparently, Ukraine's state rail has the most employees. Oh, that makes sense, Renvox. I'll bet the state-owned Ukra Gas and Nafto Gas, I bet they're big employers too. There's a oil and gas business here. I bet that's one of the big ones. In Russia, electronic drafts notices are being sent en masse. Travel blocked for those ignoring the IT. What is Ukraine doing to increase the size of its army? Well, one of the things that it's not doing is lowering the draft age. The draft age in this country is 25. Can you imagine? I mean, I live in a world where the draft age is 18. And so to see it at 25, to know that the Ukrainians continue to try to protect the next generation rather than throw them away, is very telling, I think, about where Ukraine is at with its conscription needs. I don't think that Ukraine is under the kind of stress of manpower that we've been led to believe they are. I could be wrong, but I don't think, I think if they were under that stress, they would lower the conscription age. And they're not doing it. Living under Russian oppression isn't living. You're not kidding, pal. Soon coming, Gripens to Ukraine. Yay, thank you, Sweden. Ukraine does use technology to save manpower. That's a big part of it. Hey, Felice Brown. I don't blame you. I understand. Join the Patreon. It's just you and me there. Common sense says Ukraine has a material shortage more than a manpower shortage. That may be. What is your opinion of how Stubb handled Trump yesterday? Finland stands with Ukraine. I didn't see it. So I apologize. I can't answer the question. But Stubb is pretty slick, right? I think he's taking his cues from Mark Rutte. And Mark Rutte is the Trump whisperer. Good night, Bernard. Yeah, Bip, that's a great point, and one that I love. It's one that the American military takes advantage of, right? The human brain does not stop developing until the age of about 25 or 26. And the last piece to develop are the final myelin layers here in the prefrontal cortex. Now, that means that these layers that are developed in the area of control, thoughtful consideration, impulse control, higher brain functioning, these are the layers most defined by experience. They are constructed as we learn in the world as adults. And so your experience at that time, you spend it in a factory doing mindless, repetitive work. It affects your development. You spend it in university writing, challenging your brain, writing papers. It affects how it's developed. You spend it in the trauma of a trench. It affects how it develops. And so, protecting an entire generation until their brains are fully formed, I think is probably the most important investment that any society could make. It's a great point to make, Bip. Is Patreon more secure? Well, it certainly doesn't have... Right, like to see my stuff, you have to at least subscribe to my channel. And so it doesn't have the kind of mindless bots. Like there's none of that. You don't see any of that. The Patreon is really a private conversation between me and the 200 people in the world that support me and are interested in what I say. And I'll tell you, if you think about that for a second, the idea that there are 200 people in the world, it's very humbling. It's very, very humbling. Did you see the First Lady's speech about Ukraine children today? I did not. Who's First Lady? Did your water get cut off today? I heard some of Kyiv water infrastructure was hit. It did, Dave. The water just came back on. Well, it was back on when I got back about 6 o'clock from doing that live at the site of the drone hit. Common sense. That's a great quote. I might steal that. Ukraine is fighting for their future. Russia is fighting for Putin's past dreams or dreams of past glory. Yeah, you're right. This chick on Threads, Max Rim, I think is what it is, Maksrim, Max Rim, I think. She said it best. I'm stealing her quote all the time, but she's the one who said it. Ukraine is fighting for the whole world while Russia fights against the whole world. I mean, that's really a nice turn of phrase right there, buddy. And I do use it quite a bit these days. But it came from a young woman a Ukrainian, on Threads named Max Rim. Common sense. You're getting a lot of approbations for that one. Hoya Navi. Booyah Navy. Night Refurb. No, I didn't see Trump's wife's speech. I did not. Oh, the First Lady of the United States. Okay. Chris Perry, did you join the Patreon? Are we down to, what would we be down to, 83, 84? 84. 84 left, all right. I like it a lot. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Mike Kelly says 83. I guess he made up his mind. Well, Dawn, if Mike Kelly is 83, you're 82. You guys are the best. 81. This is going remarkably well. Nice, Chris. Thank you. And BIP did too. Down to 80. Nice. I'm calling that 80. How cold is it now? Gene, it was 13 today, Celsius. Or Jean, I'm sorry, I don't know what the pronunciation is on that. But it was 13 Celsius today. That's about 56 Fahrenheit, and it's dropping down to like 44 Fahrenheit tonight, which I guess is about, 8 degrees? Oh, Alice, you're my Patreon fanboy. Alice here, when she joined the Patreon, she went through every single recording I think I ever did. I mean, I just got one like after another as Alice just worked her way through the library. That was very, I mean, it really touched my heart, Alice. Thank you. Thanks, Mick. Oh, Seawolf, I was counting that as one. You're right. I'm going to count that as two, pal. I'm going to count that as 2. So we're at 79. I did only count it as 1. But I'll take that. 79. The Rose Alley has pretty much been cut down at this point. The summer is over. Summer is over. And the workers were in, and with roses, you got to cut them back every year. Rose only produces flowers on first-year wood. So the proper maintenance of a rose bush is to chop it down to just a 7 to 10 centimeter, right, about 3 to 4 inch nub every year. How do you stay sober? Who says I'm sober? I mean, there may be a tea bag in here. Hard pruning, Nightshade. Did you hear Putin criticize the Nobel Committee? Oh my God, it makes me crazy. That makes me crazy, Dave. Putin came out and criticized the Nobel Committee for passing on Trump in such a blatant example of ass-kissing, brown-nosing bullshit from one autocrat to another. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. All right, kids, it's after 1 a.m. here. I'm going to call it a night. And I really appreciate everybody. Thanks to everybody who joined the Patreon tonight. We're down to 79, maybe 78. I'll have to do a count over the weekend. Big thanks to Arna, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to everybody who joined the Patreon. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Lars, who has the Discord server. And to the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Thank you all very much. And from me, here in Kyiv, everybody have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care, everybody.